The scared one tries their absolute best to avoid the killer at all costs. It doesn't matter if their teammates are on death hook and they've yet to even be seen by the killer. This type of player will always try and hide and do everything they can to prevent being spotted by the killer. This type of player typically uses dark or default outfits or something that can help them blend into their nearby surroundings. They love using perks like urban evasion, distortion, or even perks like off the record and decisive strike to protect them from the times where all else fails and they do end up going on the hook. If you are on hook yourself and the only players left in the game are these type of survivors, then there's no way they'll end up going in for the save, especially if the killer does decide to proxy camp the hook. They'd much rather hide in a locker or in a bush and wait for everyone else to die so they can try and escape themselves through the hatch. The scared survivors typically don't last very long whenever they do end up in chase, but fortunately for them this doesn't happen often since they're absolutely amazing at stealth, so it's rare that the killer will ever end up finding them. However, don't expect them to have a long chase anytime they do end up getting spotted by the killer. These types of players pretty much never die first and are usually one of, if not the last survivor standing due to their ability to prevent getting spotted by the killer. Although whilst they do typically survive longer than most players, they're definitely far from being helpful teammates, and they will always play like they've just bet their house on escaping the current trial. The looper is pretty much the complete opposite to the scared survivors. Whilst the scared survivors will do everything in their power to avoid being spotted by the killer, the looper will do everything they can to get the killer's attention so they can end up taking them on long chases and buy some time for their teammates to heal up and repair some generators. The loopers are usually great teammates to have due to their ability to waste a ton of the killer's time whenever they're in chase. However, some loopers will straight up refuse to ever repair generators as this is just way too boring for them. This isn't all loopers though, as some are more than happy to spend some time on generators and wait their turn to be chased. The loopers love using any kind of perks that will help them out in chase to extend the chase even longer than it already would be. From exhaustion perks like Lithe and Sprint Burst to perks like Resilience and Adrenaline, and especially the perk Windows of Opportunity so they can see which pallets and window spawns they've got, whilst also seeing which pallets have already been used by their teammates. The loopers also enjoy bringing bright outfits to get the killer's attention and will almost never play in a stealthy way. Whether they're on death hook or first hook, the looper always enjoys being chased by the killer, regardless of who the killer is. The looper will enjoy being chased by any killer, from Blight to Wraith to even Leatherface. And these types of players are typically helpful teammates to get in your games. Not only will they waste a ton of the killer's time, which will increase your chances of escaping, but they also won't hesitate on helping out any teammate that's currently being tunneled by the killer. The flashlight user will never be seen without a flashlight in hand, no matter what their current build is or what challenge they're currently trying to unlock for the tome. Their item of choice will always be a flashlight. Flashlight users have a huge allergy to generators. You will rarely, if ever, see a flashlight user repairing a gen. Instead, they can be found following their teammates around trying to get a flashlight save. There will never be a time where these players don't attempt to get a flashlight save whilst playing Survivor. These teammates are the killer's best friend due to how often they can throw games. The flashlight users are usually teammates you wouldn't want to see in your lobby whilst playing Survivor. Not only will they straight up refuse to repair generators, but they'll also miss the flashlight save 90% of the time, and often end up being the reason you and your teammates end up losing the game. It doesn't matter if they're injured and the killer knows exactly where they are whilst attempting to get a flashlight save. They'll never leave the area so long as there's a down teammate around, and more often than not, this will just hand the killer an additional down, especially for the times where the flashlight player is injured. The worst part about the flashlight user is that if there's a slug nearby that's 99% and ready to be picked up from the dying state, many of these players will just refuse to get them up and instead wait for the killer to come back for a chance at the flashlight save instead. These players absolutely love the perk background player, and it's by far their favorite exhaustion perk in the entire game. Nothing brings these players more joy achieving a flashlight save, even though it can often throw the game for their team. The new player is pretty self-explanatory. They're brand new to the game and have no idea what they're doing, yet they somehow end up in the exact same lobbies as players with thousands of hours in the game. They'll be seen wearing a default outfit whilst playing someone like Dwight, Meg, or Bill, and they'll miss every single skill check that gets thrown their way, whilst also barely even lasting 10 seconds in chase. Unfortunately for the new players, killers will always be able to spot a player who is new to the game and doesn't yet know what they're doing. Many killers will use this to their advantage and tunnel them out for an easy win, and as a result of this, new players will often end up dying first and sometimes even dying at 5 gens. However, there is hope for the new player. They'll eventually learn and adapt a playstyle that suits them, whilst choosing a survivor to main and even choosing 4 perks that will make up a build to assist them in their games. This will take some dedication though, and many new players will just end up quitting before this happens. kills. It goes without saying, but the new player is certainly not a teammate that you want to see in your games, unless you are playing as the killer, of course. The new player will try their best though, and they'll always try and save you whenever you're on hook. They'll even try their best at repairing generators, even though they're struggling to hit the skill checks. While some killers will tunnel out the new player, many other killers will feel bad for them and end up letting them go whilst chasing them. Some killers will even end up killing everyone else and giving the new player the hatch at the end of the game. Overall, the new player always gives 100% effort in every single game that they play, and they're definitely trying to slowly improve. Whilst they may not be the best right now, with some time and effort, they will adapt and learn, and eventually they'll fall into one of the other 9 types of survivors on this list. The genrusher is the killer's worst nightmare. It doesn't matter who the other teammates are in the game, what killer you're currently up against, or even what map you're playing on. One thing is for sure, the gens will absolutely fly whenever the genrusher is around. They'll be using a build consisting of 4 different generator perks, such as Prove Thyself, Fast Track, Hyper Focus, and Stakeout, for example. Not only that, but they'll also be using a commodious toolbox with Wire Spool and Brand New Parts as their toolbox add-ons. They're certainly not that great in chase, and whilst they can sometimes be seen having a decent chase, they'll never be seen taking the killers on long chases. However, their efficiency on generators more than makes up for this. Another downside to the genrusher is that they do take things to the extreme, and they will often leave their teammates to die on hook to ensure that the generator that they're working on gets completed. If you are currently injured and the only teammate nearby is a genrusher, then good luck getting a heal from them. They'll instead point at the generator that they're currently working on and tell you to repair it alongside them instead. It doesn't matter if the generator hasn't even been started yet and you're on death hook, they'll always insist that the generator gets repaired instead of getting you healed up first. Overall, the genrusher is a helpful teammate to have, even though they may take things a little too far with the gen efficiency, since they will always prioritize it over altruism. But the generators getting completed is never a negative thing when you're playing Survivor. I don't know about you guys, but I would much rather have the genrusher on my team than most other types of survivors on this list. As I said earlier, the genrusher is the killer's worst nightmare, so just imagine how the games are when there's 2 or 3 genrushers on a single team. The killers will need to get them down extremely fast to have any chance of winning. One long chase for the killer and the game is over whenever there's multiple genrushers on a single team. The medic always makes sure to bring healing perks and make sure their teammates are always fully healed. They absolutely love perks like Empathic Connection, Botany Knowledge, and Empathy, and the medic will go out of their way to protect any of their teammates that are currently being tunneled by the killer, especially if that teammate is on death hook. The medic understands the importance of staying healthy in their battle for survival against the killer, and these players are always 100% helpful. It is extremely rare that you'll see a medic player who is a bad teammate. They'll always do their best to help and heal their teammates. Not only that, but they're also more than happy to do their fair share of repairing generators, and they can even hold their own in chase. The only slight downside to the medic players is that they can sometimes be a little bit too altruistic. It doesn't matter who is on hook or who the killer is, they'll always try and save their teammates, and they'll never leave anyone behind. 90% of the time this is completely fine, and they will end up succeeding in saving their teammates, especially when assisted by another teammate or 2. However, due to their enthusiasm to save everyone, they will even try to save against insta-down killers such as Leatherface and Hillbilly, even if that also means saving their teammate on their own. When this happens, this usually ends up handing the killer an extra kill, but they would much rather that happen than just abandon their teammates. However, even though they can sometimes be a little bit too altruistic, medic players are always extremely helpful teammates that I'm personally always happy to see in my lobbies whenever playing Survivor. Next up, we have the complainer / triggered survivor. It doesn't matter who the killer is because this type of player absolutely hates playing against every single killer in the game. They also despise every single map and also hate every single killer perk, as well as most survivor perks. They also usually hate their teammates and are more than happy to see them die on hook. You better hope you don't even look at these types of players in the wrong way, as they won't think twice about purposely sandbagging you if you do anything that they don't approve of. Did I mention these types of players are also extremely easy to annoy? If the killer tunnels any survivor or does something this type of player doesn't like, then they are 100% receiving a mountain of insults and hate in the post-game chat. The complainer also makes every excuse every time they go down. They'll be sure to let you and everyone else know that the killer's M1 shouldn't have hit. They'll also tell you that they lagged and that's the reason that they went down. And they'll also tell you that this certain killer or perk is toxic and overpowered and shouldn't exist in the game. The complainer also seems to completely hate Dead by Daylight in general, so it's anyone's guess as to why they continue playing. The complainer is is also typically a player that isn't that great at the game and usually goes down quickly in chase, which just further adds to their already negative attitude. Overall, these types of players could sometimes be a decent teammate to have so long as nothing goes wrong, because the second that you even look at them funny, make sure that you're fully prepared for tantrums and sandbags. The mither just loves having fun whilst trolling the killer and even their teammates at times as well. They enjoy bringing perks like Blast Mine and Scene Partner and prioritize having fun over winning or escaping. The mithers often enjoy using survivors like Steve or Ace and definitely won't hesitate at taunting or teabagging the killer, all in good fun. Many killers will get annoyed by the mithers, as many killers hate getting stunned by Blast Mine or teabagged at a pallet. The mithers are usually great players but rarely try hard and play to their full potential, and instead opt for a more casual and fun playstyle, as that is what they find most enjoyable. The mithers love having fun with their teammates, whether that's teabagging in sync, spamming emotes with other players, or even trying to steal their teammate's item. These players love a good bit of banter with their teammates. The mithers will occasionally turn into an absolute god tier survivor when they decide to go all out and try hard to win. When this happens, they will take killers on extremely long chases and be very efficient on gens, whilst also helping their teammates out by healing them up or saving them from a tunneling killer. Overall, the mithers are definitely fun and decent teammates to have, and whilst they love playing around and having fun, they definitely won't leave you to die on hook or purposely try to sandbag you. It's all fun and games with the mithers, and whilst they love being a bit of a troll, they'd never go out of their way to ruin the games for their teammates. The meta user refuses to ever use any build that isn't considered meta. They absolutely love perks like Sprint Burst, Adrenaline, and Unbreakable, and will never be seen using fun or gimmick perks. The meta user will always play like their life depends on it, and are always extremely good at taking killers on long chases. Not only that, but their efficiency on generators is always flawless. The meta user is also great at decision making, rarely ever making the wrong decision. The meta user also isn't afraid to leave a teammate behind, especially when they know it'll be a hard save to get at the end of the game against someone like Leatherface, for example. The meta user will never be seen throwing games. They always play very efficiently and refuse to give up, no matter how bad of a spot the team is in. Sure, they may hate playing against certain killers, but they will always give 100% effort until the game is over. Having the meta user as your teammate will greatly increase your chances of winning, and the meta perks that they bring only add to how effective they are at playing Survivor. The Totem Hunter will always have at least one totem perk in their build, whether that's Boon Circle of Healing, Boon Shadow Step, or even a perk like Inner Strength. Cleansing totems is their favorite thing to do in DBD. These players are an absolute nightmare for killers using hex perks, as the Totem Hunters will be sure to seek out and find any hex perks that the killer is currently using. These players are typically stealthy and are also great at blending in. However, these players are more useful than the scared players due to their love for boon totems, which of course help not only themselves but also the entire team. The Totem Hunters usually do struggle in chase, often going down within 30 seconds. However, they can also be very helpful teammates and do enjoy saving their teammates from the hook and keeping them healed. Overall, the Totem Hunters aren't the best types of teammates you can get due to their efficiency on generators, since they're usually opting for seeking out totems instead. However, you could definitely do a lot worse than having a Totem Hunter as your teammate. They'll always try their best to be helpful and will occasionally repair generators on a side quest break from their main goal of seeking out totems. But that brings us to the end of the video, and that is going to be our list for the 10 types of survivors in DBD. I definitely love to hear from you guys in the comments down below, so be sure to let me know which category of survivor you guys fall into. Also, let me know any other types of survivors that I have missed out, and I hope you've all really enjoyed today's video, and as always, I will see you all in the next one.